Can you hear me? Oh,
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
yes. Dude, you look fantastic, by the way.
Like fantastic. Thank you, dude.
The v-
Likewise, I see you Chad Maxing.
Absolutely, dude.
Absolutely.
The space we're in, I have no other option.
It was the only option. That's right.
Yeah. Dude, you've done such a huge favor running the podcast right now. You have no idea. I had a podcast planned a couple hours ago. The guest got confused with the time, and I
Mm.
was I was fired up for a podcast. I started to work and I was like, "No, I need to record something now." So I sent a message over, and dude, I am so excited.
Let's go.
Yeah,
Ready to dive in.
how are you?
I'm doing well, dude. I'm doing well. I just went for a walk, was grounding in a park, getting some shirtless steps in. Just kind of unplugging for a little bit, because throughout the day I love to go for a walk,
Mm-hmm.
de-stim, kind of
Mm-hmm.
recharge a little bit, and let my subconscious, my mind, just kind of get clarity and clear out a little bit, because like a lot of different inputs that I have going through my mind every day, like everybody else does.
I
So
love
very
that,
intentional
dude.
about doing that throughout the day,
Where are
and it's
you
beautiful
from,
weather.
by the way? I mean, I'm asking this because of your tan. Yeah, like you've been able to tan very easily and very well. No?
Yeah. I grew up in Ohio, right? Like I come from a white family. So it's really weird that like me and my mom both have this like very good ability to tan, even though the rest of our family's pasty white. I do have some Italian in me, so I think that's part of it.
Shit. Wow.
Like probably like 10%, not nothing too crazy. I'm mostly British, I'm mostly German, little Scandinavian, so very
Wow.
white heritage. And then I have on my mom's side, I think her grandmother was partially Native American. So I think that's
Okay.
where the tan comes from. A little Italian, a
Probably.
little Native American. Otherwise, I am totally white.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dude, so give the folks tuning in today a little bit on who you are, what you're doing, kind of maybe a little start on like what got you here today, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those who don't know me, my name is Nick Marsh. I go by Nicholas Alexander. That's my first name, middle name on social media. And I've been in the game for, I don't even know, 3 years, 4 years, at least on
Wow.
social media. And I've been on this health journey for a long time. And that's how I got it all started. And back in high school, I had a ton of gut issues. I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, it's inflammatory bowel disease. That was my senior year, so it was 2017. And then had all these gut issues, like cramping, bloating. I had diarrhea, like bloody stools, and I was just
Mm,
super inflamed just across the board. And there were a variety of things that could have caused it. One, genetics. I had a cousin who had Crohn's disease, which is very similar. I had a lot of things going on in my life at the time, like a lot of stress with school and trying
yeah.
to go to college. And I did it. I those are the first couple times I like went out and kind of went hard with the party scene too. So a lot of things just happened around the same time, and it led me to get those gut issues. And I ignored them through college. I tried to just be a normal kid. I tried to party, have fun. I was too scared to make a name for myself, so I literally just did the comfortable route. Went to the in city school, University of Cincinnati, where my family went, and I ignored all the health issues I had, and they only got worse. I got this bacterial infection twice called C. diff that just made all my symptoms worse. I was
Wow.
taking all these different medications. I probably lost like 20 pounds over when I first
Wow.
got diagnosed. I put a lot of that weight back on, like through steroids, but like I lost a lot of my muscle mass I had from high school because I was playing football, I was playing rugby, and I started to right the ship a little bit. And then COVID happened, so I totally lost all my progress of like doing well in school, and actually started to fix up my diet a little bit and started to exercise. And then what was that, the summer of 2020? I was like, all right, I gotta figure this out, because I had nothing going for me. Like my health was terrible. I
Yeah.
couldn't really get any work hours with my job in college, and all the school was online, so I had no motivation to do any of it. I was a shell of myself. I was just
Yeah.
playing video games, eating junk food, watching porn. Like that was my life. And then fast forward to, to the summer of 2020, I was like, all right, I gotta start figuring this out. So I started hitting the gym again with a buddy, started cleaning up my diet a little bit. Didn't really know what that looked like. Like I grew up eating whole foods, like organic
Mm-hmm.
foods. My mom always shopped there, but I didn't actually know what I needed to eat to fix my health. I was so inflamed. Most foods bothered me. I couldn't eat vegetables. They were too hard to digest.
Wow.
Um, I couldn't eat dairy. I couldn't eat a lot of different things like that. So I had to
Mm-hmm.
eat like a very, very basic, like kid food diet. And then I was like
Really?
eating, yeah, like the easily digestible. Like I would eat some meat, but like I was psyoped into believing that I should be eating the plant-based and like the
Right.
dairy-free
Wow.
milks, and like I didn't like go full vegan or anything like that, but I
But you
thought
were
like, oh,
more
I
okay.
need dairy, so let's drink almond milk. Red meat's bad, so let's just eat like poultry. And I even tried like the Beyond Beef stuff for a little bit because I thought it
Wow.
was supposed to be healthy for me. And then I was like, oh wait, this actually makes me feel worse. This is not
Mhm.
conducive to my health, especially not my gut issues, bro. Like that's none of that
Absolutely.
stuff is anti-inflammatory. If anything, it's
Dude,
pro-inflammatory.
when that Beyond Meat came out, I was so into that.
Yeah,
So into that.
it's
Yeah.
brutal.
So I have a couple of things to unpack over there. What maybe not maybe not a moment, but why did you decide to turn things around in the summer of 2020?
Yeah. So at the time, I was dating this girl. Like we just started dating. Before that, we were friends, and she kind
Mhm.
of saw me go through this terrible phase of life of just terrible health and like parties, hookups, just doing all these things that college kids do. And she was one of the people that helped me kind
Wow.
of right the ship. And we're not together anymore, but at the time, she was a valuable friend and eventually girlfriend of helping me put more effort into school, and that translated into getting a better job that would push me harder. And then I started to realize, like, oh, if I want to be able to perform my job in school, I also need to perform, or I need to get my health in tip top shape so I don't feel like
Right.
crap all the time, and actually I can live my life and not be scared of going out in public or eating foods at restaurants and worrying about having to run to the bathroom
Mhm.
between every meal, which is just terrible. And I created this feedback loop in my head where, because I went to the bathroom a lot when I was super like in these flare ups, that I was scared to go in public. I was scared to go out and do things. I was scared to travel because I always needed to be near a bathroom. So I would just stay
Wow.
at home.
Wow.
And it was a terrible, terrible relationship. I was very dependent on being near a bathroom. And I was like, okay, I want to break
Wow.
this. I want to fix this. But the doctors, they just told me to take medicine, hope for the best. Like they didn't actually give me,
Mhm.
they're not rehearsed in the nutrition stuff, especially with the circles we're in. So that actually wanting to do something with my life and starting to figure out like, oh, if I want to, I should probably like declare a major and graduate and get like a good job. Like that was the environment that my girlfriend grew up in, and she was like instilling that into me. And although I don't see exactly the way she does, she showed me that path of like, oh, I should get my life together.
That's
So
beautiful,
that's what
dude.
led me into getting into my health and prioritizing it big time.
When you started to get into your health, kind of going vegan-ish, did you start to realize a little bit on did you start to see the fallacy, I think that's a word, or flaws
Yeah,
of big pharma?
I did. Yeah, I So I was on a bunch of different medications,
Mhm.
and they definitely manage symptoms well. Like if
Of
I didn't
course.
take them, it would only get worse, but I wasn't actually healing. I wasn't
Mhm.
actually solving the root cause. And then they gave me a bunch of random supplements that were crappy. Like it was some sort of, I think it was like vitamin D2, which is not even a good form of vitamin D, and you shouldn't even be supplementing vitamin D in the first place. They were
Yeah.
giving me this iron supplement, which never supplement iron anyway. Like your body can't utilize it if you don't pair it with like a copper or a zinc. Then it's just going to lead to unbound iron issues, which is actually terrible for gut issues. I didn't know that at the time, but I
Mhm.
was just taking it blindly, just trusting them,
Yeah.
and it was not doing anything for me. If anything, it was placebo, if that. So
Mm.
once I learned the truth about what these medications were doing, not to mention all the different side effects that they have
Wow.
and the supplements they're giving me, like quick thing on the medications, if you ever read, like I took Humira or Lialda, I don't know if you've heard of any of these, or prednisone is a steroid I took temporarily. All of these medications have side effects that can actually make your gut issues and worse. They can like
Did
I also took a lot of non-steroidal drugs like ibuprofen or
okay.
naproxen or like a Aleve essentially, or Tylenol, and those all
Yeah,
wrecked my gut
okay.
as well before I
Wow,
even got
wow.
diagnosed. So I was
Right.
taking that before I even knew how bad it was. So once you learn that all these side effects
Mm.
from these medications you take for your gut actually can make some of your gut issues worse if
That's
you're not
incredible.
careful, it's very counterintuitive. It's very counterproductive.
Mhm.
And it was funny because I remember in end of 2020, I got COVID. I got tested positive for it, and I needed to with like school and my job. They like tested regularly,
Mhm, mhm.
and when I got tested positive, or when I tested positive, the doctors told me not to take my medication because the medication weakens my immune system. That was their reasoning. And it
Whoa.
makes perfect sense. they do weaken your immune system. That sure, they might treat the one issue you have, but by taking those medications, it actually opens you up to more
Yeah.
infections and different infections.
Most of these medications destroy your immune system. I'm
Exactly.
pretty sure.
And I was
Wow.
just like, I didn't know much about gut health or immune health at this
Yeah.
time 4 years ago, but I was just thinking about that. I was like, this is so backwards. Why would I not
Wow.
take it while I have COVID? And honestly, I didn't have any crazy symptoms. Like I had the chills and I was definitely tired and like my immune system was shot. But I was like, why would I not be able to take my medication?
Right.
That makes no sense to me. So I was like, okay, that
Wow.
was one of those moments where I was like, okay, maybe there's not a lot of merit to these medications as I thought. Maybe I should try something else here.
Right. Yeah, I said that was incredible because I mean this gave you such an opportunity to like wake up and make some and do something about yourself.
100%. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible, dude. You have skin in the game then for this.
I do.
Absolutely.
I have lots of skin in the game.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, but fortunately for me, it put me on this path. So I'm grateful for
exactly.
it.
So going from vegan bro to schizo bro, how did that happen?
Yeah, right. So slightly vegan bro to schizo bro. I was hitting the gym a lot and I definitely needed to get my nutrition dialed there. So I was eating a decent amount of protein. That was when I
Mhm.
was starting to realize like, oh, I should probably be eating a lot of protein here
Huh.
and carbs and stuff. And I basically was just cooking like what 99% lean ground turkey and ground chicken,
Okay.
overcooking it, cooking with like these crappy
Mhm.
pans. I was like, okay, this ain't it. So I eventually started learning and teaching myself how to cook stuff raw instead of eating frozen meals all the time and protein powders because my gut was able to digest them way better when I was actually in control and not
Mm.
buying these frozen meals that have like seed oils and all this extra crap in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I started learning how to cook my own meals. It was very basic, but and I started swapping out some of the cookware I was using. I started using better cooking fats once I learned like, oh, maybe I should use like olive oil or butter or those are the ones I usually use, but then I learned about like coconut oil and ghee and tallow and all
Mhm.
those.
Mhm.
So how great those are for your gut and digestion, and also just better in general for cooking, like temperature wise. So it started bleeding into that, and then the lifting stuff that has never really changed. I had a lot of knowledge in high school, and I was just trying different things
Lifting.
over the past few years. Definitely did like bodybuilding stuff. Definitely did like powerlifting stuff. I'm doing more like I don't even know what you want to call it. I'm kind of like a hybrid train dude right now. Like I lift in the gym. I do outdoor workouts in the sun. I
Dude, I feel
run. I
like
walk. I bike. I play pickleball. I play volleyball. I just do everything
yeah.
I want, and there's really no structure to it. I am trying to like I'm pushing chest heavily right now this summer, but
Mhm.
so that was already kind of a default in my routine for the past few
Mhm.
years. But getting into schizo, the gut health stuff is what was the first thing that got me on this
Mhm.
path and going deep into it and learning. Once I realized like, oh, the medications aren't actually fixing these issues, and the diet stuff I was doing was working, but there's definitely something I'm missing here. One of those things that really opened my eyes was carnivore and animal based.
Wow.
So I got
Okay.
exposed to like Paul Saladino and Sean Baker, two of the biggest names in that like corner of the health world,
Mhm.
talking about this stuff. And both of them frequently were talking about. Well, Sean Baker talked about people with gut issues,
Mhm.
Crohn's or ulcerative colitis, which is what I have, healing their diseases when they do a carnivore diet, whether it's for a month or a few months or they do it indefinitely. And then Paul Saldino was talking about his carnivore diet, and now he does animal based, where it was healing a lot of different autoimmune issues, which ulcerative colitis is technically an autoimmune issue.
Okay.
So, and it could go beyond that. You can talk about eczema, psoriasis, stuff like that. So I was like, okay, maybe there's something here. Maybe I should try one of these diets. And I did animal based first because
Mhm.
I've never done no carb. That was a lot at the time for me to
Really?
fathom even trying. So I started
Okay.
animal based. I switched to meat, eggs, fruit, which
Mhm.
is already what I ate. I just removed the vegetables, I removed the gluten, and I was only getting raw dairy at the time. I finally
Okay.
had a raw dairy plug, and this was probably end of 2022, early 2023. And I tell you, when I started doing this, this was the first time I had a solid poop in like 4 years, five
Wow.
years. All of my poops have always been like diarrhea, runny, urgent. Like I just had a lot of these crampy feelings in my
Yeah.
gut and in my intestines all the time. I couldn't get a normal bowel movement to pass. And once I went on animal based, I think it just reduced my inflammation, and I had enough, I guess, things in my diet that were moving my bowels well enough to where I was
Hmm.
pooping logs. And I was like, this is great. I was like, oh, let's
Coffee?
go. I wasn't even drinking coffee at the time.
Okay. No
I cut out
caffeine?
well, right now I do it,
Yeah.
but like at the time, so Caffeine was tricky. There was a long time where I didn't touch coffee or caffeine because I was already going to the bathroom a lot. It just made me go more, and
Right.
my gut could not handle it. So I honestly feared coffee for a while,
Okay.
even though I liked it and I would drink it.
Yeah.
I could definitely rip a black coffee or a cappuccino. It just I was too scared of it. It would always make me run to the bathroom, especially when I drank in public. So I just didn't drink them, and I had to just Chad ram somehow in college with no caffeine most of the time. But then once I did animal based, I was like, all right, cool. The bowels, there's something here. I was like, I feel good. The bowels
Yeah.
are really coming along, but it didn't fix like all my issues. It definitely helped with a lot of different things, such as digestion and stuff. And then I around this time was when I got acquainted with Holistic Nick, and I'm sure you know him.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about how carnivore healed his ulcerative colitis, which is the same stuff I had. And
Yeah.
okay, I was like, all right, Sean Baker's talked about it. He's a big name. Holistic Nick. He's a guy I started seeing pop up recently, and I connected with him and I was asking about how he did this. This was end of 2022, maybe like January 2023.
Okay.
And he was sharing with me, and we realized we had a lot of similarities
Wow.
with our journeys with gut issues. We actually grew up in the same hometown. It was just funny how that all like we have similar like mentors in
Mm-hmm.
this space. So we connected on that. And then what was it, like March of 2023? I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna run carnivore. And he planted that seed. A few of these other guys that have talked about it planted this seed. And it was the whole idea of it is an elimination diet to remove
Sure.
everything that can be problematic to your gut, to allow it to just kind of reset, allow it to heal a little bit, and give it some of that nourishment it needs, give it a break. But I was just such an inflamed state that I just needed to remove everything that was
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
inflaming it. And it was more than just physical, it was definitely emotional or mental, emotional,
Wow.
spiritual. There's definitely an element
Wow.
there. So I did the carnivore diet for 4 weeks, about a month or so.
Okay.
And bro, it was insane how much
Really.
the inflammation went away. I mean, my bowels were definitely backed up, like no
Mm-hmm.
fiber. That was new. So it takes time for your gut and your microbiome to adjust to that. So I was definitely constipated out the wazoo. But after what, like 2 weeks, craving sucked. I definitely was craving sugar, but it eventually went away. And I was just so used to running on, I guess, kind of like this
Yeah.
keto
Yeah.
diet of using fat for fuel. My lifts definitely sucked, and my energy was definitely down in
Mm-hmm.
the for performance wise. But I eventually was I reset that baseline for my food palette, if that makes sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
sugar, when I started introducing like sugar or carbs again, I was so sensitive to it. I was like, wow, this is great. Like I
Wow.
was eating glycine. That was my sweetener when I did
Oh,
carnivore. I
wow.
was just
Okay.
putting that in like my water. I was just eating it in
Just
spoonfuls, and it
okay.
tasted so good, dude.
Yeah.
Because I had nothing else, and I was eating like
Wow.
sweet butter, sweet cream butter, and that had a little sweetness to it. So, but
Glycine.
anyway,
Wow.
carnivore was definitely the biggest needle mover for my gut issues. If I had to look back over the last 7 years and be like, what was the one thing? That was the top thing,
Wow.
in my
Did
opinion, hundred
Did you
percent.
do any fasting for the
Not
gut?
during carnivore, no. I did some research beforehand on how to best do carnivore, like best practices.
Okay.
And when you're not eating carbs, when you're doing a keto diet, especially when you're not used to it, you're already in a hyper stress state just by not
Right.
having carb. So
Mm-hmm.
fasting would have made that worse. And it's harder, especially when you're not eating carbs. Carbs help you stay hydrated, and you're not getting as many electrolytes in your diet when you do carnivore. So fasting is going to make that even harder.
Right.
So there were so many factors there where I was like, okay, it does not make sense to fast while doing carnivore. And Nick told me not
Too
to.
much stress. Okay.
Yeah, too much stress on the body. It
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense. But I
Yeah.
have fasted many times since then in a more structured manner. So both are great tools. You just have to. I would not recommend doing it at the same time unless you want to see
Huh.
what happens. But for me, I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
So I did carnivore, and I started reintroducing. I think I started with like honey, some very easily digestible fruits. I kind of eased my way back into an animal based diet. And I definitely took a break from dairy outside of eating butter because I always did well with butter. That was never an issue for me.
Really.
And then, yeah, because I mean, there's like almost no lactose in it. It's
Mm-hmm.
just always worked for me. So um, I did
Yeah.
that.
Once you get into the butter game, you can't fucking leave the thing
That's
alone.
right, dude. Butter is
Yeah.
my favorite cooking fat. It'll probably always be my favorite taste wise, and just how
Yeah.
my eggs always turn out in it. So then I did, yeah, I did
Well,
animal
man,
based. Went back to animal based. Everything was feeling good, man. Like a lot of my gut issues went away. Like definitely not all of them, but I was in such a good spot. I felt like I had control over my health for the first time in a while.
And how was your mental performance after
Oh,
fixing
dude.
your gut?
Yeah. So brain
You're
fog,
someone
bro.
else.
Brain fog
Wow.
is insane with gut issues. And my memory sucked. My focus was terrible. I mean, I could definitely lock in on the things I needed to, like the things I cared about. Sometimes I always loved like watching sports and these random like
Mhm.
other stuff. But with my job in school, it was a struggle, bro. Like
Mhm.
I had to dedicate a lot of time to this stuff, and if it didn't click for me, because some stuff like I have in mind that I'm able to pick up on stuff quick, like naturally. If I had to actually focus and like grind stuff, I was terrible at that. Like I just
Wow.
couldn't, and I didn't ever really use drugs like guys would use, like Adderall. I was never doing that, so I just kind of I just grinded it out, and I miserably failed usually in college. So
Wow.
I got solid grades, and that was okay, like my jobs. But once I started healing inflammation, I feel like a weight was like lifted off my head,
Mhm.
inside my head, at least in my
Mhm.
brain. And I was like, I started to one, my brain felt like it was moving faster. I was on my toes more mentally. Like I was just more sharp in general, and my mood elevated because of that as well. Like my
Right.
whole demeanor for life, my vril, my vigor for
Wow.
life, and just my
Wow.
mindset with everything. Now that I started to figure some of this stuff out on my own, because I ran to the doctors whenever I had a problem. I was too reliant on them. I was too scared to
Mhm.
figure this out on my own, or at least figure this out with me and a few people that I trust in my circle. Whereas I don't view the doctors that I had before being in my circle like that. So the mental side of it was huge. And around the same time was when I started getting into my faith, and I started
Right.
like exploring going to church again. I think I was going to church again by this point, and studying the Bible, getting into God's word. I was doing
Mhm.
Bible studies with some guys. I started to get connected with my local community a little bit with the church I went to. So I think it was right around the same time. And a big thing with all of this is hinted on it earlier about how the doctors, they might tell you like there's no cure for this. Like you just
Mhm.
gotta take medicine, hope for the best,
Yeah, you're
come in for your
broken.
routine checkups, right? And that put this mental barrier in my head that I couldn't heal. So I had to live with it, and I
Mm.
had to just find a way to make it somewhat livable and not miserable. And that was a really hard barrier to get over when I was going through this like animal based carnivore phase, going through this phase with my health physically, mentally, and spiritually. And like, I almost felt like I wasn't worthy of healing.
Wow.
I wasn't deserving of it because I've made a lot of mistakes. Like I definitely shot myself in the foot countless times,
Wow.
and I didn't know, like, I didn't have a good relationship with God either at this time, or at least before this a little bit. So I really did not think I was worthy of it.
Mhm.
I had so many opportunities, and I threw them away. So I guess just starting to make my peace with God, and realizing that like all of us are created like in His image. All of us are worthy in that way. We all have a chance to make right for our wrongs, no matter how bad they are. Even if society tells us we can't,
Right.
like it's not about what society tells us we can do. It's about like what you believe you can do, and what God believes in you that you can do. So um, that was all of this happened. What was like March, April, May, whatever, just over a year ago. And once I got through that, I was like, okay, now I have that vigor for life again for a
Wow.
multitude of reasons. And health was definitely at the forefront of that. So around this time, probably April, was when Nick and I, because we had very similar struggles and we overcame a lot of those health issues. I mean, he was farther along than I was, but we decided to work together and launch a gut health coaching program. Like he had
Right.
one launched, he just started. I was actually getting ready to craft my own version of like gut health,
Mhm.
nutrition, fitness, because nutrition, fitness were my original background. That's where I started in the coaching phase on Twitter. And then I eventually got into gut health because I was like, oh, not many people actually know about gut health, and not many people
Right.
have skin in the game and have been through it. So I was like, okay,
Right.
maybe I should share some of that here. So we did that for a good chunk of last year.
Mhm.
High ticket coaching, taking on clients who had a lot of the same issues that we had. You could talk about IBD or bacterial overgrowth or IBS, acid reflux, and there's a lot of different like minute gut issues. But I realized that a lot of people with gut issues, it was some sort of stress in their life
Mhm.
that was causing it, especially
Wow.
IBS or
Really?
obviously poor lifestyle decisions. But a lot of people were living in very stressful situations that
Hmm.
indirectly or directly led to their gut issues. And when I thought about back into my journey. I was like, oh yeah, I definitely had a lot of unnecessary stress,
Stress.
and I didn't know how
Okay.
to cope with it. I didn't know how to deal with it. I ran away from it,
Mm-hmm.
and it definitely didn't help any of my situations. So, um, but anyway, yeah, a lot of these people, it was from lifestyle stuff too. Like we're talking about just terrible diet, like they're not healthy metabolically in any
Mm-hmm.
way. They are drinking alcohol all the time, just abusing I don't know, stimmies or drugs. They're overstressed, cortisol maxed all the
Mm-hmm.
time, which is not conducive to healing the gut in any way. I mean, some people can get through it, but not everybody can. And then you want to talk about all the different toxic ingredients in food
Right.
or in the water supply or
The
in
law of environment.
medications. I mean, EMFs, blue light, like all these different things. I was like, because gut health is when the body's one giant system and gut health is
Right.
connected to everything. Like you can do the gut brain axis, you can do the gut connected to your thyroid or your organs or your digestion and your immune system, like it your like your muscles, all these different things. I was like, okay, maybe we should look at this as a whole, because a lot of people want to like silo our bodies and our health, but in reality
Mm-hmm.
it's holistic. So that was actually a big thing with our coaching, was holistic approach.
Right.
So we ran probably, I don't know, while we were working together, we probably had 30-40 different clients, got
Mm-hmm.
a ton of results. I was very blessed with the opportunity to work with people one-on-one and get to know
Wow.
more about other people's stories, because honestly I was so focused on my own story, I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
even talking to other people. I didn't really know many people that had these issues. And then until I was on Twitter and meeting Nick and meeting
Mm-hmm.
working for some of these clients, I was like, oh, I'm not the only one. Like surrounding myself with people that are on this path too was super helpful.
Wow.
But
Beautiful, dude.
yeah,
I wanted to touch on faith.
absolutely.
You know, it seems like you reconnected to nature, you finally healed, and faith returned. Right?
Mhm.
This is a common observation I have with podcast guests. The same thing happens. You heal physically, you reconnect to nature, and that comes back, or that finally appears.
Mm.
Do you relate to that?
Yeah, dude. I think going on this health journey helped me reconnect with God. I grew up Catholic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Went to Catholic schools, Catholic family. Like I was around all of that, and I know so many of the stories of Jesus and stuff in the Old Testament,
Mm-hmm.
like Adam and Eve and Moses and all that, right? But it never like actually resonated with me. I was always just like in one ear out the other, going through the motions. I was
Wow.
just so used to doing all those traditions that
Mm-hmm.
come with Catholicism and a lot of different denominations of Christianity or other religions and stuff. So it didn't resonate with me, but I hadn't really gone through anything in life yet for me to reflect on it deeply. I was just so focused on sports and playing video games and having
Yeah.
fun and just dicking around, like nothing, not actually doing anything serious. And then once I dealt with these health issues, once I started prioritizing my health and started prioritizing my life, like, oh, I should probably get a job, or at least find a way to make some money and actually do something with my life instead of living paycheck to paycheck all my life and being in terrible health. But once I started doing that stuff, and I started surrounding myself with like-minded people, a few of them were people that were Christian or people that
Mm-hmm.
had a relationship with God. And I noticed I met a few of them in person on just some of these like Twitter meetups or trips. And when I was around them, they just had, even though I had good vigor for life at the time, it was in the middle of this whole health journey I was telling you about earlier. I felt like something was missing.
Wow.
And I looked at what they had and what I had, and I was definitely comparing myself. So we could talk about, that's a whole nother thing. But I realized like, oh, these guys are like actually prioritizing God and not just themselves, because like it's very easy to fall in the trap of like self-development, of only prioritizing your own needs, which is
Mm-hmm.
important when you need to stay alive and to survive. But if you're doing everything just for yourself, I view that as short-sighted, because like we're all flawed people and our desires and our motives can be misaligned with what you're really meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you can definitely kind of get in this echo chamber of like you're the only one that's right, everyone else is wrong, everyone else is out to
Yeah.
get you. Like, bro, I don't think the world's out to get you. You're just turning yourself into the main character when you're really not the main character, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I realized that I was missing that relationship with God,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, okay, let's try this thing out again, because I never actually tried it the right way, from a
Mm-hmm.
place of vulnerability and a place of authenticity. I was doing it from a place of someone told me to do it, and which is not
Right.
that was never my style with religion. That was never my style with school. Never with my doctors. That was never
Yeah.
I couldn't do it that way. So because I never knew why. They never told me why. They just told me to do it. I was like, screw that. So I started reading the Bible. I started doing Bible studies. I started getting back into the word a little bit. Honestly, I was struggling. Like I was reading these stories and they just weren't hitting.
Wow.
But I started going to church, and I was going to like these non-denominational Christian churches, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of the sermons I listened to, they were relatable. And I was like, dang, these are way better than my Catholic ones. Not to say the Catholic ones are bad.
Yeah.
It's just it wasn't what I needed in my current season of life. And these sermons were, practical, applicable to real world situations. We can talk about health stuff or money, relationships. You can talk about like lust or
Wow.
gluttony or greed, like just a lot of these worldly things that people deal with on a day-to-day basis, stress, anxiety, depression. It was just, once they were hitting on these topics, I was like, oh, this dude actually knows how I feel. Like they're speaking to me. So that was what started planting those seeds. And then I realized that like getting in the word is good,
Mm-hmm.
but doing it with other people and having the right community around you was even
Right.
better. And I felt, as I was connecting with some of these guys I met through Twitter mostly, God was speaking to me through them and
Wow.
showing me
Wow.
something that I was totally missing with opening my
That
heart up to Him and stuff like
that's a
that.
beautiful realization.
Yeah. So I
Wow.
already realized with the health stuff how important community was on Twitter, like back in when I first kind of started 2021, 2022. But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize that was what would get me back into my faith, was surrounding myself with the right people. So now, like, I mean, I've been doing this for a while. I've been surrounding myself with people that help elevate me with my faith, with my health, with business, and with all these different things. I value all of them. I don't just value only health. I don't just value only making money. I don't just value only faith. I value all of them. Well, faith is number one now, but
Mm-hmm.
like I value all of them. So now I curate my environment and curate my inputs to facilitate that growth, as opposed to demeaning myself with like just watching sports all the time or playing video
Right.
games or all these like black pill doomers, or dude, I don't even know. There's so many things that I could say that like I let that get, it's on my feed and I see that I'm like, bruh, I need to get this off my feed right now. Like this is so counterproductive to what I'm trying to work on or what I'm trying to build. So yeah, the faith, the community, and growing closer to God, with just a lot of those things I was hitting on with church, reading the
Wow.
Bible and stuff like that. It's been huge. It's been
So,
astronomical.
so what's your current understanding of God? And I ask the question that way because I feel like the more you connect to that, the more you understand of it, if that makes sense.
Yes and no. You've probably noticed it because you're deep in the health game. The more you research, the less you know.
Hmm.
That's actually what I found with God. Like, not in the sense of like I definitely know more God
Huh.
than I know more of God than I do before,
Of
but the
course.
more I learn about him,
The
the more I realize that I truly cannot fully understand his master plan that he has
Wow.
for us. If
Wow.
you know what I mean. Like it's
Yeah.
super humbling to even think about. But to answer your question, like what does my relationship with God look like, or like what was that how'd you word that question
What's
exactly?
your current understanding
Current
of God?
understanding. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my current understanding is I always believed in God. I always believed that God was the creator. I'm not necessarily going to say that God isn't real. Like, I'm not atheist. I'm not agnostic. I'm not that confused on it. I can't prove to you that God's real. Like, I am physically incapable of doing that. But based on, uh, I guess, history in the Bible, based on scientists trying to explain the Big Bang Theory and evolution and stuff like that, I've led to believe that there is a God. And I look at all living things on Earth. Like if you want to talk about humans versus animals, like humans have a moral compass that animals do not. I
Hmm.
don't think that was by some scientific chance of our cells were just that evolutionarily better than every other animal out there. I think there's something deeper to it. Like there was a
Okay.
cause that led to humans being so advanced. It wasn't just a snap like that from
That makes
by
sense.
chance.
Yeah.
So I believe that there's a God and He created us, and I believe that God created us all to be equal. Like we're all, like all humans at least, we're all created equally amongst Him, and it doesn't matter if you're the richest, most influential person in the world, or
Or
you're
you
like the
believe in him.
dirtiest of the dirtiest, like criminal,
Yeah.
like murderer, rapist, like obviously terrible actions and terrible things, but we were all created by Him. So in that sense, we're all equal, and I guess we all deserve equal. You almost say like opportunity or equal justice or equals. I don't even know how to best
Yeah,
describe it,
no,
because I'm
no.
still trying to figure it
Understood.
out.
Yeah.
But like, I view that God created us all to be equal. And with that, the way I look at it is not my place to cast judgment on people. I'm definitely guilty of it. I've done it so many times, and I see people do it all the time online. But it's not my place because, uh, like, they make mistakes just like the same way I do. Like, if I'm so focused on judging people, I'm probably missing something that I'm doing that I should be critical of myself, or I should be focusing on my own issues first. And if anything, people that are judgmental, it's usually because they're projecting some sort of insecurity that's in their own life.
Of course.
So where I go with this now is God has helped me lead with love in my life in every way
Wow.
I can. So instead of burning the bridge, I try to, mend that bridge, or I extend an olive branch, or keep that relationship good. Like, if someone does something bad to me, I could retaliate, right? Like, that's
Hmm.
definitely everybody's gut reaction, probably, is to retaliate, to get vengeance, to get justice. When in reality, you talk about like Jesus saying like love your neighbor, or turn the other cheek, kind of thing. Or,
Hmm.
not to say like if someone's threatening your life, you should like just lay down your arms and let them kill you or something. But
Yeah.
self-defense is legit. You can do that. But if someone is hating on you, especially on social media, bro, like in the comments, or sending you death threats, or sending you stuff
Right.
like that, like, finding a way to take the high road, because whatever they're saying, it's usually something that they have wrong with them. It's not about what's wrong with you. And obviously everybody's flawed, so you can always be getting better. But realizing that, like, they're just as screwed up as you are in their own way, and they actually might need you to be that light in their life, or be that someone
Hmm.
that can help pick them up instead of putting them down all the time. So that is something that I prioritize now, and that's what it means to me with God, and what Jesus talks about in the Bible is just being a good person in general. Like, not being a nice person. Like, obviously you can be nice to people and say nice things, but actually doing what's
Good.
best for them, and what's
Mhm.
best for maybe the situation, or what's best for God. So like, or what's best for what God wants for us. And I just now I'm at the point where I like to definitely share Jesus's message and stuff. Like, I don't wear it on my chest all the time. Like, I'm
Mhm.
not like, I'm a Christian, like, yeah, like, yeah, I'm better than you, right? Like,
Mhm.
that's a self-righteous fallacy with religion in general. But I like to spread love in that way, and I like to educate people on the health stuff. I like to have deep conversations with people. I like to get vulnerable and do those kinds of things. I don't like small talk and surface level combos. They're boring to me. I did it way
Yeah.
too much in my old jobs in college. So, I just have I'm much more content with the things I'm doing in life. I'm not like, I still work and I still grind when I need to, but I'm very content with the path that God put me on.
Mhm.
And that contentment comes with growth. I'm not like complacent, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's a difference there.
Yeah, dude. So I want to change the topics a little bit, even though kind of connects, I guess, which was moving to the tropics,
Mhm.
right? So how has your experience of life and your connection with God even changed by
Yeah.
making this move?
Yeah. So first and foremost reason I moved here, because I wanted to improve my health even more. I wanted to
Mhm.
take it to the next level. Like, I don't have all my issues fixed. I don't think anybody has all their health issues fixed,
That's
but I have a
true.
lot of gut issues fixed. And now I wanted to create an environment to make it way easier to improve those things. And I just wanted to be more autonomous, bro. I didn't feel like biohacking just all the time. It's so much mental bandwidth to
Yeah,
deal
yeah, yeah.
with that it just I want to focus on other things, and I wanted to remove some of that extra stress I didn't need. So instead of living in the Midwest where I had to biohack in the winter, I just moved here in January. I skipped
Right.
winter. It was great. I basically just went straight to spring or early summer here,
Yeah.
and getting out in the sun, doing more outdoor activities in general. Like, I bought a bike immediately, and I bike
Mhm.
so many places. I bike to coffee
Wow.
shops, I bike to the gym, I bike to the beach, I bike wherever, right? I do that. I mean, I'm around. I had a fresh start down here. Like, obviously, it was for the
Right.
health stuff, but I wanted to get out of the hometown, and I wanted to build a new community down here. At least I wanted to get a test run. So I moved here for 3 months
Mhm.
originally, and then if I liked it, I would stay longer. If not, I would go to somewhere like Texas, because I knew people in Austin
Mhm.
that as well. And I decided I wanted to stay because I was like, okay, I got something here, and I'll be here for the foreseeable future unless something changes. But the sun being at the foundation of my health routine has been insane. Like, I'm fully embracing the circadian
I can see it
maxed
on you.
lifestyle. You could probably tell just from, like, I have my
Yeah.
tan back. Like, I always felt good whenever I went to Florida and I got a nice tan. But when I went back to Ohio, I was like, bruh, it's overcast every day. It's
Yeah.
too cold. Like, the sun's only up for 8 hours on during the winter, it feels like. So,
And there's so much electromagnetic pollution over there.
oh, for sure. I mean, everywhere in America. But
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
if the and I'm not in the sticks by any means. I'm definitely near the city, but I'm in a place where I can detox way better
Right.
by being
Same
on the
page,
sun. I
right?
sweat so much, dude. Obviously, EMS a little bit different, but I have so much access to nature being in St. Petersburg. Like I'm near a city, but I have beaches, I have parks, I have so much nature at my access. It's less like corporate concrete like Tampa is, or definitely like a New
D
York, bro. I couldn't live in New York.
Does it feel like you're in Florida or somewhere else?
Does it feel like I'm in Florida or somewhere else?
Because I feel like that place feels like you're somewhere else, no?
St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
I would say it is just well having the beach, yes, having the palm trees, it being flat. It definitely reminds me of Florida. Um, I think I'm just so used to it now
Mhm.
that it feels less like Florida than it used to. It's definitely not as Florida as Miami, if you want to think about it
Right.
like that, because Miami's way faster paced and way
Mhm.
more happening, and just a lot of vice, a lot of debauchery down there, and crazy things happening. So it is St. Pete is more chill. It almost feels like one of those touristy beach towns as opposed to
Okay.
like a big city Florida town, if that makes
Okay.
sense. But
Yeah.
other than that, the weather's the same, and you have access to a lot of the same geographics like lakes,
Mm.
coastline, beaches, all
Mhm.
that stuff. A lot of health, a lot of places to get good food, a lot of like
Right.
trendy, health conscious restaurants, a lot of farmers markets and local
Mhm.
farms you can get or groceries from. Most things are overpriced down here, so that's the same everywhere in Florida,
Yeah.
especially like rents and trying to find a house and all that. So it has a lot of elements that I remind me of Florida because I used to vacation here every year growing up, but it is a little different now that I'm settling in. It's a little different from like a Miami
Mhm.
or an Orlando, I guess you could say. It's got its own little unique touch to it.
Yeah, I wanna visit very much over there.
Let's go, dude. You
Yeah.
should
Dude,
let
so
me know.
this restart that you made happen because of your move to Florida, like, I know you already explained a little bit on this, but how was life before that you made this, like, trigger, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so I have been manifesting moving to Florida for a while before I even
Mhm.
moved here, and you probably I probably tweeted it before.
Mhm.
We've probably talked about it in the past or something. And before I moved to Florida, like I was working a corporate job and I had my own apartment, like super nice apartment. Definitely like paid a little too much
Mhm.
for it, but it was nice. And I was near the city, I was near like everything I needed, and I had a few friends and stuff I hung out with. And once that lease was up, I was doing that gut health coaching, and I moved back home with my parents for a little bit just to save some money because I quit my job, right? And I had to get the cash flow up in order for it to work. And during that time, uh, eventually I got away from coaching, and I had a lot of like, I just kind of had to restart with
Mhm.
income streams and cash flow and all that. So it was definitely very stressful, even though I had almost no expenses at the time. It was very stressful because I was like, I want to move to Florida, but I literally
Mhm.
couldn't afford it. I
Mhm.
literally would have had to go get a job again, and that would have been very counterproductive to what I was trying to build and what I was trying to do.
Of course.
So honestly, before I moved in January, I was stressed, bro. Like it
Right.
sucked. I was not in a good spot mentally. I was not in a good spot with my health. I mean, I was definitely I was still in a good spot. Like I didn't fall too far off, but
Mhm.
I lost a lot of the momentum I had earlier in the
Mhm.
year. That
Sure.
makes sense.
Okay.
And once I started, basically all I was thinking about was like, all right, how can I, after the holidays, like, how can I speed run moving to Florida as quick as
Mm.
I can, or at least give myself enough runway to go and do it.
Mhm.
So I got a couple gigs and freelancing, and I was making some money there. Once I saw those first few like paycheck things,
Mhm.
whatever, come in, I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I got some money here, and I had some money saved up already, obviously, to go and do this. And I got a cheap rental place down in Florida for 3 months, and I was like, okay, I can afford this easily, and I have enough money to buffer anyway. So let's send it. But I spent so much time just trying to make
Mhm.
stuff work and trying to figure out what I want to do and trying to get out of the hometown because sure, my expenses were near zero living at home, but
Mhm.
I was not that doesn't mean you're gonna like
Yeah.
you can't grow. Like I couldn't
Mhm.
grow living with my parents. Like
Yeah, I get
being
it.
around I love my parents, I love my mom, but
Mhm.
my mom talks to me a lot and she distracts me and she's telling me about all this like hometown family drama that I just didn't have the bandwidth for. Like I was
Mhm.
just so focused on my own stuff, and honestly, I just kind of checked out for a little bit, and I
Mm.
almost too much. And having a group of guys back home was helpful. Having like in my church at least, I would go hang out with them, and we
Mhm.
did like a Bible study every week, and it was good because some of those guys were in similar spots to me, at least with like living at home and trying to figure out what they want to do because we're all like early mid 20s there.
Mhm.
So it was good to have those guys around me and then my buddies online. And
Mhm.
I was definitely like biohacking as much as I could with what I had access to just
Yeah.
try and keep my health in order because bro, like the falls are nice in Cincinnati, but once it gets cold, like I was hitting the gym, but other than that, like I just wasn't doing anything. I was just at home trying to grind, trying to figure it
Mhm.
out. And I was not giving myself that time to de-stimulate or to recuperate or get
Mhm.
and remove myself from social media and all these inputs and stuff. So I was definitely in a hyper stress, hyper anxious state for a lot of that time.
Wow.
And once I saw that light of like, oh, I can actually take this step or take that leap of faith and move to Florida with all my stuff and all my belongings, it was a very freeing feeling to do it. It was still scary as hell. I'm not gonna act
Mhm.
like it wasn't, and it was definitely stressful those first few months, and it still is to this day. Like I'm not saying life is easy right now,
Mhm.
but creating that environment for myself and adding a little bit more pressure that's actually conducive to my growth instead of pressure of just while I'm staying at home in my parents'
Mhm.
house for several months. Two completely different environments for me. So
Wow.
it was a night and day difference. The stress is still there. That's just a part of life. Like you just kind of have to roll with it. But I'm in a much better spot to deal
I
with it.
love
I'm in a
that.
much better spot to overcome it because I created that environment for myself, and I've leaned into community heavily here
Mhm.
too. I think that was part of the question,
Yeah.
maybe like with the health stuff or like how I was back home and how I am
Mhm.
now with the faith. Like I found a church down here I was going to, whatever, I was going to it every week. Didn't really know anybody there, and I just kind of did whatever. It was good, but I ran into one of my buddies that I knew through Twitter. He actually goes to my church down here,
Mhm.
and he's like, "Bro, you should check out the." They have like an adults group that young adults, like people's in their
Mhm.
20s,
Mhm.
maybe like in their 30s too, that they meet up every week and they like do a Bible study or they go hang out like and do normal lives. People they're not like devout like who like monks or something. Like they go and live normal lives too. So I was like, cool, let's go hang out with them. And yeah, since April, I've been prioritizing community massively down here. And honestly, I've been on social media less because of it. Like I still do my work stuff, my biz stuff that I'm doing with brands, and I'm
Mhm.
still health maxing and Chad maxing, get out in the
Mhm.
sun. But I've
Yeah.
been leaning heavily into building community in person because I love Twitter because I didn't have community back home. But now that I
Wow.
have community in person, I don't need
Mhm.
Twitter as much. And I
Mhm.
honestly think that's what people should do. The goal is not to be on Twitter forever, bro. Like you
Absolutely.
should be able to have that community in person and go on there when you
Yeah.
need to. But like if you
It's
live on
human
there,
nature.
if yeah, it's human nature. If you live on there, that just tells me you have no in-person friends, which I don't know if that means you think you're better than everybody else or
Yeah.
you're just a dork. I don't know what it is. I was that person. I still kind of am. It's fun. I lean
Mhm.
into it when I need to. But now I'm surrounding myself with good people who they might be normies sometimes. Like they might be not as red pilled like we are, but that's okay. Like you need some of those people in your life to keep you honest
Absolutely, and it
because you
keeps
don't
you
want to get stuck
humble.
in an echo chamber and people look at you like you're crazy.
Mhm.
So also hormesis, bro. I go out and do normal things because it's good. It tests my resiliency, and that's a big thing with overcoming
Mhm.
gut issues. If you're not
Absolutely.
resilient, bro, you're just gonna be a hypochondriac your whole life, and that sucks.
Mhm.
So it's been
Yeah.
good, dude. It's been really good.
Yeah. What other big change has happened since this restart?
What other big change? Health stuff for sure. Like I'm fully autonomous with it. My health is better, and I actually have to put less effort in. It's great.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of different business things I'm working on right now. Like
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
mostly working with other health brands. Some that like I'm doing stuff with Daylight Computer.
I saw. Yeah.
Yep. So like I worked an event in Dallas with them, demoing the tablet at the Dave Asprey conference. So that was a great opportunity, and I'm probably gonna do more of those in the future. So I'm an
Yeah.
ambassador for them, right?
And
Just kind of like
great like community
oh,
connection
great
over there.
community, great networking,
Yeah.
meeting tons of people and talking about like I genuinely care about that stuff because I have terrible eyesight and a lot of that was from blue light screens
Wow.
growing
Okay.
up and
Mhm.
being able to help with the younger generation with that alone is awesome. Plus, like I just love everything else they're about and I love the
Mhm.
whole idea of having a better relationship with technology and not be glued to a blue light screen all the time and stuff. So a love what they're about, and it was great to do that in person. So I'll be doing that. Do a couple other brands and stuff. I do stuff on TikTok, and I do a little bit on Instagram and Twitter here
I
and there
saw,
too.
yeah.
So that's all good. New opportunities have come up since moving down
Beautiful.
here, and I've made a lot of good friends down here, both in my church community and then in my Twitter community that I just happen to know down here. So like, if you know Nick Holes or Nick
Mhm.
Holtz, I live with him right now,
Yeah, that's
and
beautiful.
that's been awesome. So we got a place for a few months because he just moved down here from Philly,
Mhm.
so he's in a very similar season of life that I am,
Mhm.
and he also had gut issues, right? And then have a few buddies. If you know like Jad on Twitter, he lives Jad like the Eastern way. He's very like he's PD, he's very esoteric and
Yeah.
stuff, but he lives in Tampa. So like I link up with him a bunch. Eric here, Noah
Oh,
Ryan,
beautiful. Mhm.
Nupro, they are all down in St. Pete for
Mhm.
a little bit or next few months. So they've been here for a couple months too. So I link up with them occasionally as well.
Mhm.
Just met Nolan, Tyro. I met Luke, Lamy recently. And then there's a bunch of guys in Tampa too. Like community, both in Twitter and in real
Mhm.
life, is incredibly better than back home. So that's been
Mhm.
a big thing with the restart. And then we talked about the faith stuff, getting
Mhm.
more involved in that like church community. I'm actually getting into more of like serving in my community and like doing stuff within the church because it's great to like, go to church and get in the word and do those things. But all those things, I was doing that to like raise myself up. Now I want to
Mhm.
help raise other people up, and
Oh,
more than
wow.
just with the health stuff. I actually want to
That's
do it
beautiful.
with like the faith stuff and people
Mhm.
with a lot of these like traumatic pasts and relationships. Cause I've been through a lot of this stuff and I'm like,
Mhm.
actually, um, people, I talk to people and I realize like, oh, they actually get value from this. And I've gotten that feedback. So maybe it's something I should pursue more
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
general because I feel called to do that. And I've been praying about it or just thinking about it, praying, journaling, and
Mhm.
all that stuff. So, yeah, health has become way easier, more autonomous, and
Mhm.
better. Community has been incredible. The faith has been
Great.
incredible. Business opportunities. So every area of my life I can think of has been incredible. But
That's beautiful.
when I think about all of that, I try to keep myself humble and honest in the midst of it because it's very easy to like build this superiority complex that I'm better than
Sure.
other people and
Yeah.
these people aren't worthy of my time, which yes and no, like you should value your time. But
Yeah.
it's just remembering that like bro, God has some master plan that we have no idea what it truly is. And
Mm.
I honestly, there's
Wow.
a lot of things that are going to happen. And I have no idea
That's
where life's going to take me. So I'm not trying to get too fixated on like these things, these specific business outcomes need to happen.
yeah.
Because every time I try to like grasp onto it harder, it gets yanked away from me and I have to pivot. So I've had so many opportunities come up when I least expect it. So I just lean into that uncertainty more and more. And
Mhm.
going through the health issues taught me that skill, I guess you could say, or that
Mhm.
experience. So I'm going to keep working on the things I'm working on. I'm going to keep myself open to opportunities. I'm going to keep building community and growing in my faith and getting more jacked and tan and healthy, like I
Yeah.
have been doing for a while. So I really can't complain. Like I was saying earlier, I'm very content with the things that I'm working and building on. I might have bigger things I work on in the future. We'll see if that's. I definitely want to. It's just a matter of resources that I
Mhm.
need to do that. But that'll come with time. I know.
Mhm.
I got plenty of time to do that.
I love that, dude. For my last question, one
Yeah,
that I'm sure you love, what brings you most joy in life?
man. What brings me most joy in life? I've been smiling this podcast this whole time.
I love it. Yeah.
Honestly, dude, community. Like the easy answer is God and having a relationship with Him now. But like just being around people that align with my mission.
That's
It's
incredible.
such an easy
Mhm.
answer. I feel like for me, it's the
Mhm.
health stuff. Like I live with someone who cares about his health, and he's trying to grow in so many different areas of life, like I am, Nick. And then we have a couple buddies, Jad, and another guy, Sagar. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's newer
No.
to Twitter, but he's big on Instagram. That we link up frequently, and we go hit the beach. We go, chef
Workout.
out, or like we smoke cigars, do that kind of stuff. And then I have my
Mhm.
homies I hang out with at church and go do real life stuff. And I got, a girl I'm talking to that I met through church, bro. Like, so all of just the community I've built there has been incredible. It's the thing that got me started on Twitter. It's the thing that got me back in
Mhm.
my faith. It's one of the things that helped me get out of my shell a little bit and upgrade my health per se.
Mhm.
So, dude, just community, keeping that train rolling, keeping those good people, or always surrounding myself with those good people, moving on or keeping a healthy distance from the people that are kind of pulling me
Mm-hmm.
down, and finding ways to help them if I can, but
Mm-hmm.
removing myself so they don't affect my trajectory too much or anything like that. But
You're here to help. I fucking love that so
I'm here
much,
to
man.
help, bro, in any way I can.
Yeah, I appreciate your answer. I appreciate your sharing your wisdom, giving me time to interview you today.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. Really appreciate it, Alfonso. And I hope you have a good rest of your day, brother.
Thank you. You too, bro.